I unequivocally condemn these shameful acts of violence aimed at the Jewish community.
This is an attack on our community and the Jewish community in Sydney. It is anti-Semitic.
The condemnation was swift.
What happened last night is disgusting.
Amid ever-rising fears in the Jewish community of further escalation.
This is the latest incident, the latest attack in a sustained campaign of intimidation, harassment and terror against the Jewish community.
Overnight in Sydney's inner suburb of Woollahra, a car was set alight, walls and footpaths vandalised with graffiti.
There is still a very active crime scene investigation at that location in Woollahra, and police have been working around the clock to follow all leads.
Well, police here have closed off the street, and this morning forensic investigators were searching for clues. Two men believed to be in their late teens or early 20s were seen leaving the scene in disguises. This is the second attack in this suburb in 3 weeks.
We will get to the bottom of this. We will bring people to justice. We do not believe that the two attacks are linked at this stage, however we are keeping an open mind.
Last month, a short drive away, a car was torched, buildings graffitied, and Matt Moran's famous Chiswick restaurant vandalised. 2 men were charged over those crimes. This latest attack has left some residents rattled.
It was kind of scary in the middle of the night. Like, we just heard these loud popping sounds. I thought someone was maybe breaking in, so we ran outside.
It's abhorrent, it really is. I mean, why would you do that sort of thing?
Rabbi Rafi Kaiserbluth from a nearby synagogue came to inspect the street.
Are you worried that this seems to be escalating?
I'm not worried, it is. I think clearly what we're seeing is, for whatever reason, people have been given permission to act on their base instincts, and we need to work even harder to put those back where they come from.
What security measures have you put in place now?
Quite a bit, which not at liberty to discuss.
The attack comes just days after Melbourne's Addis Israel synagogue was firebombed in what police say was an act of terrorism. But there's been growing frustration among some in the community about the response to anti-Semitism in Australia.
We haven't seen the policing really be active. A lot of policing has been let's keep the peace.
Today, the New South Wales Police Commissioner Karen Webb joined the Premier and community members in condemning anti-Semitism. The Commissioner said police would be increasing their response under Operation Shelter, launched after the October 7 attack last year.
They'll be tasked to engage with the community, patrol, so police will be out there.
Commissioner, the Anti-Semitism Special Envoy Gillian Segal has said that she hasn't seen enough active policing. Has New South Wales Police
I'm
done
not
enough
sure
to...
whether she's talking about New South Wales, but let me say, Operation Shelter has been running since October 23, 7th of October. Post that day, our operation has been running, and we haven't, we've been committed to that ever since. Whatever complaint, inquiry has been made of police has been investigated. Every complaint of racism reported to police has or is under investigation. So I take this very seriously. We take it very seriously.
Does there need to be more patrols in Jewish communities?
I think that's the commitment today, is increasing patrols.
At one of Australia's oldest synagogues in Sydney's CBD, Rabbi Benjamin Elton says many in the community are on high alert.
Do you feel safe?
I feel less safe than I did. I think it's either a miracle or good luck that no one has been seriously hurt or even killed in these 3 violent attacks, each one of which included setting fire to cars or indeed a synagogue. We've escaped without any injuries or deaths so far. I'm very concerned that our luck will run out.
He's welcomed today's police response, but believes a stronger police presence in Jewish communities is needed.
Well, would you like to see more police on the streets tonight?
I think so. I think there has to be. It shouldn't be left to the local police force in the City of Sydney to do it, or those who look after Woollahra. They should be mobilised from wherever they're needed and sent to the areas which require a physical show of force and a show of security and intent to enforce that security.
The attack happened in the federal seat of Wentworth, held by Independent MP Allegra Spender, who joined the Prime Minister today at an event at the Sydney Holocaust Museum. Allegra Spender, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
How can Jewish people in your community be made to feel safe?
I think this is a lot about the policing. And today I met with the New South Wales Police Minister as well as the police commissioners and local police in eastern suburbs as well in the city about how we can do that. And that is about, I think, firstly, the visible policing is really, really important. And I'm reassured to know that the police are going to those key Jewish locations such as synagogues and schools and pieces regularly, number of times a day. And so I think that message really needs to get out there. I think the other way is also really making sure that people who have committed these terrible crimes are brought to justice. And I think it's really important to recognise right now that those people, 2 weeks ago who vandalised and firebombed a car in the eastern suburbs, they are now behind bars, they've been refused bail, they've been charged. That is really important because I think we need they will feel safe when any actions have real consequences and frankly, when these sorts of things stop.
Those people you're referring to are in custody awaiting trial, so of course innocent until they're proven guilty. Now, you're talking about policing specifically Jewish locations, but of course the attacks that took place last night were not on Jewish locations. They were just located in the eastern suburbs where there is a large Jewish community.
I think the truth is I think the community will feel safe when these stop. And when also the graffiti, which I see everywhere. I saw some yesterday from Centennial Park, which said "Kill the Jews" on one of the street signs. When that stuff stops, and I think we just need to recognise that this sort of behaviour has no place here in this country, and it should not be tolerated. And again, when people are committing that sort of graffiti, that they are brought to justice. That's what my community is really seeking right now.
Do you think policing to this point has been inadequate?
Look, I don't think... I think that the community is really frustrated that they feel there's been a sort of emphasis on keeping the peace, which I really understand. I understand that the police are trying to take the temperature down and trying to avoid conflicts and confrontations. I appreciate that's what the police are trying to do. But I raised this with the police today, that when members of the community are told or, to hide, their Jewish symbols, their Magen Davids, those sorts of things, that's not our country either. You would never ask someone to take off a headscarf, or any sort of behaviour like this. So I think, we need to not only, make sure that we don't have confrontations, but we need to make sure that people can go around their lives, expressing their faith in an appropriate, a reasonable way.
Is there a direct correlation then, in your opinion, between permissiveness in relation to hate speech and actions like the one we saw last night and indeed the heinous act in Melbourne last week?
Well, look, I think Mike Burgess, head of ASIO, has said words matter. Words matter what politicians say and words matter what community leaders say. And certainly, there have been some really awful things said by some extremist preachers, for example, that have, I think, are very damaging. People who've called for things like the final solution with the Jews. Now we all know what that means. Under our current laws, that sort of language is not prosecutable, is not able to be addressed under our current situation. So we do need to reform the laws. We have some laws in front of the Parliament at the moment, but I personally believe they need to be strengthened to include serious vilification as well.
You were at the Sydney Holocaust Museum with the Prime Minister today. He's been roundly criticised, especially by the opposition, but criticised for weakness, generally in relation to the rise of anti-Semitism, not condemning it enough, and then in particular for what some people described as a slow response to the events in Melbourne. Were you satisfied with his response today?
Look, I think the things that I have been asking for were, firstly, this coordination between the different levels of policing. I spoke to the Prime Minister on Sunday about that. I requested that, and as did others, and I think that's really positive that came forward. And money for security immediately. But I think we're going to have to wait and see because we really we just need to stamp it out, and we're going to have to keep on the pressure, including in law reform, in policing, but also in how we build social cohesion as well.
But this is a problem that's now been present in the society since October. I want to reference the attack on Josh Burns' office, his electorate office in Victoria, which was daubed with signs. There was small fires lit, sledgehammers were used against his electorate office. That's a long time ago. Wasn't that enough of a warning of very ugly sentiments embedding in the community?
Look, I think that was absolutely shocking, and I think with 2020 hindsight, we should have done more and pushed further on. We can only go now forward, and I think just really working together, looking at every single option we have to drive this forward.
But does that mean that the Prime Minister did move too slowly?
Look, I would love to have seen more done at that time, but I think that where we are now is where we need to go. I think this is difficult. We're not the only country in the world that is struggling with anti-Semitism, and I think we are trying to work out how to solve it, everybody at all levels of government. I would have loved to have seen more done then. I would have loved to never have seen these attacks, but they have happened, and I think now we just need to keep on pushing forward.
Now, at the same time, there's been criticism of the opposition leader, Peter Dutton, for politicising particularly the attack on Melbourne, but again, the general issue of anti-Semitism in Australia. Do you think that he has politicised the issue?
I'm trying to avoid the political commentary altogether, and the reason I'm trying to do that is because I don't think this is helping us right now. Today, as I said, we met with the New South Wales Police Minister. We had members of the local, state and federal government of all political hues and descriptions, and we came together because we all care. We all hate anti-Semitism. We all see there's no place for it here. And I think that's what we really need to be doing right now. I think that's what our community wants us to be doing, is uniting as much as we can and not turning this into politics. So I'm going to do my best to avoid that political commentary. I don't think that's what people want from us right now.
These questions have been about you as the representative of your local community. I want to ask you a question about being a teal. Retiring opposition frontbencher Paul Fletcher saved his best to last. In a speech he gave just before announcing his retirement, he called you and your fellow Teals a giant green left con job, no less than 7 times in a speech. What's your response to that?
Look, I read Paul Fletcher's speech, and I was honestly quite amazed by it. Not least because he insulted the voters and said, "Oh, look, you've all been conned, and look how stupid you were." And I think this is where I wish the coalition would look in the mirror and say, the community expects action on climate, definitely in the next decade, because it's really important. The community expects, equal representation of women in Parliament, rather than 2 women who've been pre-selected out of 19 sitting Queensland seats. Those are the sorts of things that people expect. So when Paul Fletcher goes out there and calls me names, I go, when I spoke to the Sydney Institute, I talked about economic reform. When you spoke to the Sydney Institute, you talked about the Teals. Why did you do that? Why waste an opportunity to talk about what really matters to people right now, which is actually, frankly, the economy and how we hold together?
When you were asked about this earlier today, you said the current Liberal Party is now a long way from small L Liberal values. If the opposition doesn't have small L Liberal values, what are their values?
Well, I think you have to ask them, because I think there has certainly far to the right of certainly the Liberal Party that I grew up with, but on other areas, such as the nationalisation of the nuclear industry, that seems quite sort of left wing and past the National Party. So I don't know what their values are anymore. I know what my community's values are, which are pretty much small L Liberal. Like, we care about the environment, we care about social, actually kindness and frankly social cohesion. But frankly, lastly, we care about business, and we know that actually it's only by business succeeding that the economy succeeds overall.
Allegra Spender, thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much, Sarah.
Thank you.